Hey everybody, today I'm doing something that I've done before, and that's steal ideas. I'm stealing this idea from a Fantano video. I've done this many times where I take something and I just apply it to film, and that's what we're doing today. We're talking about the most underrated movies of the year. Some of you might see some picks on this list and be like, these are not underrated at all. But I guess I'm going off of this purely based on vibes. Just vibes. Is it underrated? Does the vibe seem to be that no one's talking about it? Because I feel like there's been some movies this year that deserved a little bit more talk, deserved a little bit more love, that weren't necessarily so great that they ended up on my end of the year list, but that I did still enjoy and felt worth talking about. Some of these were even talked about at one point, and then just no one ever talked about them again. So let's just talk about some of those movies, okay? Can we do that? Starting with this movie that I just saw, that kind of inspired this, which was this Michael J. Fox documentary. Super random, I know, and I think people talked about this a little bit, but I recently watched this because I've been trying to catch up on documentaries, as we all know from my last video, and I found this to be surprisingly great. Really, it's an extremely touching movie that just proves how charming and likable Michael J. Fox is. He's one of the best celebrities we have that manages to be a lot more than just about his battle with Parkinson's. It ends up being just a really touching tribute to the people that he has in his life, the life that he has lived, everything he's achieved. They recreate a lot of these moments in his life in a really creative way. It's well directed. I just thought this was a really well edited doc that didn't overstay its welcome and made a lasting impression on me. I've been thinking about it the last few days. I thought it was really well made. Next on this list is this film called Rotting in the Sun, directed by Sebastian Silva. I've never seen any of his other films. This was my first of his, and definitely not my last. I talk about this a little bit in my What I Watched This Month video, which will be out tomorrow or something. But I thought this was bizarre and hilarious and disturbing. I'll be honest, I was one of those guys that went into it because I heard there were a lot of penises, and I was curious. I had to see how many penises there were, which there are plenty. But that's how they get you, right? They pull you in with that, and then you stay for how just ridiculous the film turns out to be. Jordan Firstman delivers such a hilarious and entertaining performance. I could watch him for like 4 hours and not get bored. He has such a great screen presence. I think the film is weirdly profound. It has a lot of interesting things to say about death. It's rare that you find a film that says something about death in a way you didn't really think about before. And this does that a lot. I feel like so often when you try to be a film about death, it ends up feeling a little preachy and I don't know, pretentious. But Rotting in the Sun is super fun, super unique, and just an all-around good and bad time. If you like the Safdie brothers, you'll really enjoy this film. Also, that poster. Get a fucking that poster. Next up is that Dungeons and Dragons movie, Honor Among Thieves. It was such a good movie. I had a blast watching this. I've been playing Baldur's Gate recently, so it's been just on the mind. And knowing how big the world of D&D is and what the game really entails, it's kind of made me come around to the runtime of this film and think like, yeah, that's pretty short for what this could have been. If anything, it could have been longer. It just kind of threw me off the first time I saw it. But I've been really wanting to rewatch this because I just had such a fun time watching it the first time. I can't remember the last time we've had like a big budget fantasy comedy film like this that really pulls its weight, has consistent jokes, is ridiculously entertaining. Could have been really cheesy, and it wasn't at all. And I put it in the underrated because even though this was like somewhat of a hit, there's 400,000 people that log it on Letterboxd, but I feel like people just don't talk about it at all anymore. It didn't show up on like any end of the year list that I saw. It didn't even show up in mine. And I thought it was so fun and such a good time that it's like, I had to bring it up. It was worth mentioning. Next is Reality by Tina Satter. This did not make my list. To be honest, it wasn't even that close to making my list. But just talking about Anyone But You a few weeks ago, I was thinking about Sydney Sweeney and her career and some of her acting chops, and remember just how great she was in this film. For a feature-length film that is about one specific interaction, one scene basically, it's gripping. Flies by. It is only 83 minutes, but it feels literally like 30 minutes. It's incredible how entertaining and thrilling this is for being so simple. I think they do an excellent job at making you feel the stress that she's going through in this moment. I described it this way in my What I Watched This Month video, I'm pretty sure, but it's like that feeling when you're getting yelled at by your parents and your body is like hot, like your face feels like fuzzy and everything's kind of blurry, and this is way worse than getting yelled at by your parents. They nail all the details of that experience and what that feels like. It's really kind of unsettling, and it totally dropped off the face of the earth after the week it came out. It just disappeared entirely, and I thought it was so great. Had to give it some love. Had to give it a shout out. Next, we have Poison, the one of the short films in the Wes Anderson series. Everyone's talking about Henry Sugar. Henry Sugar gets all the love. Poison, though, is incredible. This is, I think, my favorite of the bunch. Again, I don't know if Wes Anderson has ever done something like a thriller like this. He's never made me stress out as a filmmaker. That's not really his thing, but he did an amazing job with this one. I love when he uses his style in simple ways, when he kind of strips it down, but it's still there. I think it taps into a really unique part of his style that you don't really get to see that often. I thought the film itself was very meaningful. I love how this dealt with trauma. Benedict Cumberbatch delivers a really amazing performance. It's super simple, but it communicates a lot. Yeah, incredible movie. I really loved this short. It's definitely the best of the bunch. Rye Lane, which did make my end of the year list. This was a film I caught at Sundance and was completely blown away by. It has some of the best direction, the best cinematography I've seen all year. Insanely colorful. The production design, that's what I was trying to say. The production design is just out of this world. It really looks like it's from another world. The two leads have so much chemistry. It's when you look at this compared to something like Anyone But You, it's like, Jesus, so funny. It's so quick. Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig have often talked about their screenplays and their films, and talking about dialogue kind of dancing and having a rhythm to it. It should sound like music. And I think about that a lot now when I watch movies, is if the dialogue sings and has rhythm to it. And Rye Lane's a great example of that. There's just so much attention towards the timing and the way they deliver things, both visually and with how they deliver lines. It's romantic. It's a touching tribute to this part of London. I even had a feeling this was going to happen when I saw it at Sundance. I was like, people are going to sleep on this shit, and they shouldn't, because it's fucking incredible. And lastly, I'll throw it in there, Infinity Pool. Infinity Pool, underrated. I've talked about it a lot, so you probably don't need me to reiterate why I think it's such a great movie. I should probably rewatch it. Maybe I'll end up hating it on a rewatch, but I still think this is one of the most enjoyable times I've had in the theater this year. Looks great, sounds great, fun performances. I should really watch Possessor. I don't know why I haven't watched Possessor yet. Those are my underrated films of the year. What I really like about this video is that these are just my picks, but there's probably a handful of movies that I didn't even see this year that didn't get enough love that you guys know about. If you have any underrated movies that you feel are worth talking about, worth seeing, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to check them out. Specifically documentaries. Like I said, I need to catch up on the documentaries, and I want to know what is worth watching. But that's my video for today. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.